Hey guys, so in my 7.3.2 overall Elemental Shaman guide, I brought up the idea of another video going specifically over some of the more advanced tricks to milk as much DPS as possible out of IceFury. And a lot of you guys expressed some interest in this, so here it is. Just to clarify, if you're looking for things like stat weights and the actual build itself and all that, that is not this video. This video is going over specific tips and tricks for the build rather. The other video I'll link in the description is the overall guide for LA Shaman, and if you're looking for stats and stuff, I suggest giving that a look. So the main thing you will be min-maxing with IceFury if you're going to attempt to min-max is going to be your tier 21 2-set. What this does is it makes Lava Burst increase the damage of your next Earth Shock, Earthquake, or Frost Shock by 20%, and then additionally the 4-set makes Frost Shock have a chance to overload as well as Earth Shock, so you can have some pretty beefy Frost Shocks if you do it right. I want to clarify one thing as well before saying this. Do not ever save a Lava Burst to maximize this. It's not worth it. If you lose a single Lava Burst over the fight, it's probably not worth it. What you want to be saving for this is the Frost Shocks, and I'll be getting into more detail on this in a second. So the one and only time it is okay to delay a Lava Burst in order to Frost Shock is 1, of course, if you're moving and can't cast Lava Burst, and 2, if you're just simply out of time and have to cast the Frost Shock or the Frost Shocks to get them out before the timer runs out and you lose them. So if that happens, it's okay to delay a Lava Burst, but generally you want to be getting as many Lava Bursts out as possible, and you don't want to be losing the charges, so it's kind of like a nice little balance you have to figure out. So when I first reviewed the tier set, I did mention that you cast Lava Burst, and the little lightning thing here is the buff. It doesn't show up until after it hits. It has the travel time. It goes with the travel time of Lava Burst. Initially, I said this was a bad thing. Now that I've actually played IceFury a lot, and I have about 120 pulls on Agrimar, playing almost strictly IceFury, I've come to realize it's not a bad thing. Except for on Garathi Worldbreaker, because he has a huge hitbox or something, and it takes too long to get there. But anyways, this travel time is actually a very good thing in maximizing your amount of Lava Burst casts. So basically, what I'm telling you to do is abuse the travel time. So basically, you cast IceFury or whatever, you have 2 charges of Lava Burst, you cast 1 Lava Burst, and you cast the next one immediately after, and as long as you Frost Shock right after the second Lava Burst, you use the charge before the next Lava Burst hits. So now you can Frost Shock again and have them both be buffed without losing anything. You didn't have to wait, you didn't have to delay any Lava Burst, you just casted 2 Lava Bursts, and then 2 Frost Shocks, and as long as the first Frost Shock is directly after the second Lava Burst, as in so quickly after that the second Lava Burst hasn't actually hit yet, you will always get the 2 buffs by doing that little trick. And this little trick has saved me a lot of headache, because like instinctually you want to cast Lava Burst, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Frost Shock. That's how it would work in a normal setting, but this is not normal because there's a travel time, so you can kind of abuse it like this, and it's actually a lot more efficient to do this. My other biggest tip is just something that I have begun doing that I've noticed a lot of people don't really do, and I think it actually really improves the rotation. Basically, you're running IceFury Gambit build like I am, you'd think you should Earth Shock at 70 all the time, right? Because that's the gambling build. Well, my suggestion, don't Earth Shock at 70 anymore during IceFury. When you have a buffed Frost Shock up, or when you have buffed Frost Shocks up, you don't want to Earth Shock at 70 because it just makes it too chaotic. You're running out of Maelstrom all the time. My suggestion, just focus on the Frost Shocks when the Frost Shocks are up, unless you're about to hit Maelstrom cap. I'll generally throw out an Earth Shock if I get to like 100 or so Maelstrom, and I have the Frost Shock buffs up still, and as long as I have enough time to get the Frost Shocks out as well, I'll just dump it because you still have like 30. You can Frost Shock pretty much twice in a row as long as you have a little over 100, so it's not a big deal to do it then, but doing it at 70 is a little bit chaotic, especially if you don't get any boots procs or anything. So that's definitely a big gameplay improvement that I have kind of stumbled upon that turns out it's actually in the APL as well. Another tip regarding Frost Shock versus Earth Shock is I'm going to put myself in a situation here where basically we're going to get high Maelstrom, and we're going to have Frost Shock ready, and we're going to have Earth Shock ready at the same time. So, taking me a minute to get here because I didn't get very many overloads, but you got the buff here, you got 108 Maelstrom, you have Frost Shocks ready, you have enough, let's pretend we have enough time to get all these Frost Shocks out after. You want to use the buff on Earth Shock, it's doing a lot more damage. So basically, prioritize a high Maelstrom Earth Shock with the buff over a 20 Maelstrom Frost Shock with the buff, as long as you can get the Frost Shocks out afterwards. The Frost Shocks don't all have to be buffed, it's not the end of the world. I consider it a very good IceFury use if I get 3 of the 4 Frost Shocks buffed. I consider it a bad one if I only get 1, because generally you should get at least 2. But it's not the end of the world at all if you end up spending 1 on Earth Shock, because that's also a very beneficial thing to use it on. So my next tip is kind of a more general tip, and I'll probably have some kind of video in the background showing you myself doing this. Basically, maximize your movement during your instant cast. You have so many instant casts. So like Agrimar, for example, my position is always kind of on the wall. You want to be pushing yourself towards the wall when you have your IceFury charges or whatever. Like every time, if you're not near your spot, move yourself towards the spot every time you're casting an instant cast. Then once Ravenous Blaze comes out, you want to kind of like use your instant cast to kind of get out of the way. If you don't have the instant cast, just get the hell out of the way or you're going to die. And then after that, you want to use your instant cast to kind of get away from the boss, because the big AoE thing is coming next, and you want to be away from the boss, otherwise you got to turn around and run and lose some uptime. So it's kind of just like you slowly like trickle towards your next location. And a lot of this does come with getting used to fights, but this is definitely a huge benefit of IceFury that people really undervalue. It's not just the every time you get a mechanic and have to move, you might have an instant cast up and ready to go. It's kind of like you can constantly be moving towards your next location as long as you know where you're supposed to be and not be losing a single damage doing it. So try your best to maximize this on every fight you can. My last tip is a pretty big one for min-maxing this, because you cast IceFury, you cast Stormkeeper in your opener, you only got 15 seconds to get out 4 Frost Shocks, 3 Lightning Bolts, ideally 3 Lava Bursts at least, and you also have to cast the Stormkeeper after the IceFury, or before, I guess, depending on which order you do this in. And it can get very, very tight on this opener, and later in the fight, every 1 minute or so, you're going to be having the same overlap. So you have to really, really know when you have to just abandon the min-max and just dump the charges. Just dump the charges, and you also want to do your very best of knowing when you have to stop, while you can still cast Elemental Blast in between. Like, you don't want to run out of time so much that you're just casting all your instant casts and not able to do your basic rotation still, because that's probably going to end up at a DPS loss because you were trying to min-max, and you don't want to do that. This is something I'm still kind of learning myself, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. I'll show you a video in the background of me doing this as well, where I cut it really close, sometimes a little too close, because you may end up losing a charge or two. I've actually done that before as well. It's something that really just comes with experience. You have to know you need about 7, well, not about, you need 7 total globals for just the shocks and the lightning bolts. At some point you might need an Earth Shock in there, and your 3 Lava Bursts, or depending on your haste, somewhere between like 3 and 6 globals, probably closer to 4 or 5. That's a lot of globals for only 15 seconds. Let's just pretend there is no Earth Shocking or anything. That's about 11 to 12 globals in just 15 seconds. Any movement is going to disrupt that as well. And it's not counting Elemental Blast, which is another cast as well. It happens every 12 seconds, so like it's extremely tight, and you really, really want to be careful not to push yourself too far. So try it on a training dummy. Do whatever you got to do to really get a feel for it, because there's no way I can really tell you exactly when to stop. You just kind of have to figure it out. Like, you have to know, okay, when my weak aura hits this point, I only have like 3 seconds left, and I have to just use the last 3 charges or something like that. So I think that about sums up everything I can really give right now as far as tips go. Sorry for taking about a month and a half to make this video. I wanted to make sure I was completely qualified, it was all fresh in my mind, and I thought Mythic Agrimar progression, probably the perfect time to do that. And I also spent like a week doing Mythic Plus and streaming it 12 hours a day, so that didn't really help either. But here it is now, and next up on the agenda is, for one thing, I changed my mind about doing all the Mythic videos, or the whole Mythic and Taurus guide in one video, because it's like, there's the first 9 bosses and there's the last 2 bosses, and they're like a whole different step up or whatever, so I'm going to probably do the first 9 bosses separately. And I'm already 9 of 11 mythics, so I can do that anytime now. And then I'll do the next 2 once I kill those. So there's going to be that coming up soon. And then I'm also planning to do, or begin, a series of Mythic Plus guides for Elemental Shaman, so you can look forward to that as well. And hopefully you guys like this video, hopefully you learned something. Enjoy the IceFury, hopefully they don't get rid of it soon. I just have this feeling that next expansion is going to go away, and I hope that's not true. But anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.